What's up, guys? Coach Vassar. Thank you for joining me with OTF Auto Daily Beats. As always, if you're new, appreciate you tuning in. Listen to me talk about these workouts. If you find value in them, information is in the description to support me. We're going to break down Saturday, November 15th. This will also repeat on Sunday, the 30th. We're going to see endurance on the treads, power on the rower, strength on the weight floor. In the 2G, this is a tread row workout with a card. In the 3G, is just a regular 3G class. All right, we'll talk about the 2G and then go over the 3G. So for the key concepts today, we're going to see base on the treads, power on the rower, and today's all about hitting strong 200-meter all-out rows. For the floor, you'll prime, lift, and finish strong. Today's floor hits everything from stability to strength to core work. As far as setup of the room goes, because this is a tread row day, if you do have two groups, the group that starts on the rowers for the warm-up, make sure they have wipes so that way they can clean it up before they head over to the weight floor. When we look on the left side of the template, so every time they're on the treadmill, it's at base. It does get longer, and the intention is to make sure we use that base for active recovery from that really aggressive row we'll see on the other side. So 0.1 base for joggers and runners, power walkers 0.05. The old bike is 0.4, old striders 0.3, new bike, new strider 0.3. And they're at base, right? So extended warm up. As soon as they hit that distance, stop key twice, head to the rower, stored programs for a 200-meter all-out row, and we're tracking time for today. So how quickly can they do that? They may need to catch their breath, but part of that recovery is going back up to the treadmills and then going to round two. Round two, the treadmill now goes up by 0.1, 0.05 for the power walkers. Bikes will go up by 0.4 on the old one, 0.3 on the old strider, 0.3 on the new strider, new bike. So we'll see longer time in base. So it's a good opportunity for members to really establish what is their base, that challenging but doable, feeling, intensity, so that way they can find green and at least keep that heart rate kind of stabilized. When they go back to the rower, 200-meter all out. And that's kind of about it. Right at the 22-minute mark, give them that heads up about the finisher, which is a 30-second all out at whichever station they happen to be at, right? Yes, you're going to have members who want to finish specifically on the treadmill or finish on the rower. So at least give them, the courtesy to give them that heads up so they know they can switch and finish where they want to finish rather than where they're forced to finish. Unless you're that kind of coach where you make people do stuff they don't want to do so that they can get better at it. So you just stay there, hit that 30-second all-out row, Karen. It's good for you. Okay. Now, you're going to have members probably go off script here, especially with it just being at base. Typically with run rows, you have people who want to be aggressive. They go after it. And every time they're going that distance, they ignore the intensity and they just gun it. So they might start with like an all out for 0.1, and then they might try to maintain like a push all out, maintain a push, so on and so forth. That's fine, but just make sure we don't lose sight of the goal of trying to match or beat the row time each round, right? So if they notice that the row is getting longer to complete, hey, let's maybe pull back on what you're doing on the treadmills today, right? Now, if they are, maintaining their time on the rower, maybe they could challenge themselves on the treads. And that would be like an off mic conversation to have with them. Either way, during that base time, hopefully we get that heart rate to kind of level back out, get into green. Part of that transition to the rowers, that's going to bring their heart rate down. So when they sit down, they'll probably be, starting to tap into like the low green, the blue. You may even see people hit that gray. They hit that 200-meter all out. Typically, that's going to be around 45 seconds to 50-ish. And of course, there's going to be that delay response for that heart rate. So they'll start very low for that first 100-ish meters, and then you'll see them start to kind of get into that mid-range green, and then they finish the 200 meters, they rack their handle, they're breathing hard, and then they see orange for about 10 to 15 seconds, and then the heart rate starts trending down. And that's going to be very typical. So part of that recovery from the rower is the walk back up to the treadmills, log in, hit start, get right to base, use that to actively recover. All right, enough rambling about that. Let's look at the weight floor side. We're going to have a primer block for 4 minutes, 90-second setup for block 2, where it's 13 minutes of work and rest. And then we have a bonus block, which is Coach's Choice Core Blast. Okay. So for the primer, we're going to see 2 strap movements and then a body weight exercise. You'll have the chest press and the high row on the strap paired up with the Heisman for 8 reps. The intention is to do all 3 movements, rest, then do them again. Obviously, when you go into that Heisman, depending on your studio layout, you may want them to do it, away from the strap and then back to the strap. So they're moving in line with that rather than going to cross and run into one another. Okay. Then when we get into the strength work, it's 4 movements, 8 reps for everything, whether that's 8 each side or 8 total. Just be aware of that. We're going to see a dumbbell split squat, 8 with each leg in front, 2 dumbbells at your side. Higher on that rep count for that movement, so probably go more of like a moderate-ish weight that first round. Then we're going to see the alternating sumo deadlift. So they'll step out, do that deadlift, bring the feet in, other side. That one's 4 per side, still moderate to heavy weight. Split stance, single arm high row. They're on their forearm. They're braced to that midline. Elbow drives out. Smaller muscle group. So think about upper body, moderate weight choice there. And then we're going to see the floor alternating chest press. Ideally, they start at the top position. They lower one arm down. Once the elbow hits the floor, they pause for a moment, take out that stretch reflex, and then control press back up. Then they hit the other side. Okay. Remember, with the floor chest press, it does limit range of motion, which means they could go heavier, but it also decreases the stretch in the pec. And part of that stretch reflex that I just mentioned is being able to get past the line of the body so that you get the pec muscle to stretch and then essentially kind of snap back like a rubber band to help assist with that lift back up. Okay. If you're stopping halfway, you don't get as much tension on that muscle. So it's a lot more strength focused rather than momentum focused, which there's nothing wrong with that. There is a time and place for that type of training. 13 minutes here, encourage more of like that moderate weight range for that first round. And then could they go heavier without sacrificing form and trying to stay within that 8 rep spot. Now for the core blast, they recommend, hey, 2 to 3 exercises, either based off of sets, reps, time, whatever. And then you do have a coach's choice core exercise for the final 30 seconds. As always, they say pull from the exercise library, so that way members are familiar with it. Try not to fly off the cuff and make your own thing. Try to mix in different types of core movements as well. So, for the anterior section of the core, plank variations, leg raises, dead bugs is a good choice. For the backside, the posterior, bridges, supermans, bird dogs. For rotational stuff or counter rotational, you got your torso rotation, bicycle crunches, but also if you have people who are very familiar with the Paleth press, the ward on the strap, maybe you want to throw that in there. But keep in mind that's going to be stuff that will take up time to kind of explain and do that. But the main thing is try to avoid staying in one plane of motion. So like avoid doing 30 crunches into 20 sit-ups into 10 leg raises, because that's a lot of anterior work. Very easy to kind of just put so much high volume on that and neglect everything else. Okay. And then there you go. That's the 2G. Now, when we look at the 3G, like I said, this is a typical 3G class, so not a, there's no tread card. You'll be timing the treadmills. Rowers will have 2 blocks. Weight floor will have 1 long block. For the treads, 14.5 minutes. We're going to start with a 45-second push and a 1-minute base. And the goal here is to increase push intensity each round and then get back to the green zone during each base as quick as possible. The call out is working on that heart rate recovery. So they do mention that if they need to lower their base, totally fine for today's workout. Every round, the push stays the same and the base gets longer. We'll see a total of 4 rounds, starting off with a 45 push, 1-minute base. Round 2, the base is now 2 minutes. Round 3, the base is now 3 minutes. And then round 4, it's 4 minutes. So if you think in terms of like the 2G, this is almost like the opposite of the 2G, where they started with the tread active recovery, and then they hit that all-out row, and then they went back to the treads for recovery. Now we start with work, then active recovery. Okay, and that 45-second push almost is like that 200-meter row, even though it's not quite an all-out because they're doing a push, but same idea. Hey, we're working for a short amount of time. increasing that speed for the joggers and runners, power walkers, increasing their incline and or speed. And for the bikes and striders, you can increase gear. You could also increase RPM and maintain gear, because either way, both of those will increase power output. Okay. Every round, increase the intensity and then adjust base to make sure we could get back to that green or trend towards that green as quick as possible. Try to avoid having people take it to a walk just to get to that green, because we want to think about the mindset of using active recovery to help reestablish that baseline, get the heart rate back to kind of settle, and see that recovery process. After 4 rounds of that, they have a bonus 45 push into a 45-second all out. Now for the rowers, we're going to have 2 blocks. The first one is 9 minutes in length. We'll start off with a 300-meter row build, 100 meters at base, then push, and then all out. They'll rest, and then they have anywhere from 4 to 8 reps of a squat to alternating jump lunge. Talk about that movement in a second. Going back to the row, obviously 2 different ways to kind of approach this. 1, you could have them pay attention to their stroke rate, or 2, they could go off of either like split time or watts. Okay. So if they started on the rower and they've been doing their warm up, hey, stroke rate 18 to 24. So maybe start in that range for that 100-meter base. When they go to the push, let's try to increase your stroke rate by 2. So if they're at 24, let's see 26 for that next 100. And then for that all out, 28 plus on that stroke rate. So quickening up that tempo is another way to kind of have that idea of increasing the intensity. The other way, of course, is paying attention to the leg drive, right? Starting on that base, it's closer to like a 4, maybe 5 out of 10 on that push back with the legs. And then when they hit it to that push, please don't shoot me for just saying this, but 6, 7. Yeah, sorry. 6, 7 out of 10 on that leg drive. And then finally for that all out, 8, 9, 10 out of 10, all out effort. Okay. Either way, both styles of approach, whether it's stroke rate or, perceived exertion from the lower body, we want to see either the watts go up, obviously, or the split time to come down. When it comes to split time, usually you'll see like a decrease of about 3 to 5 seconds from base into a push, and then another 3 to 5-ish seconds or more from push into an all out. Now for the movement itself afterwards, we'll see a squat, alternating jump lunge. So feet side by side, they perform a squat, jump lunge, that's 1, and then back to a squat. Okay. You want them to cut the movement off when they are no longer explosive. Since they have that rep range, I think the intention is explosive work, because once again, the rower focus is power today. So when they start losing steam on that jump, they're not getting as high, they're not as explosive. Hey, stop there. Let's rest. Let's get back on that rower. Okay. Once again, that's a great opportunity to, watch someone, evaluate how they're doing, and then circle back, check in, and then kind of reassess off mic. Now, the second block is very simple. It's row, rack, rest, and the goal is to match or beat their row time with a 100-meter all-out row. When they finish, they rack their handles, catch their breath, stored programs, do it again, and just keep doing that until a 45-second all-out. Knowing that they have that all-out for the final 45, this block is 4.5 minutes, so that's going to put you right at like 3:45. So most likely people will get 3-ish rounds if they take adequate rest after each all out. Because if they do that 100-meter all out, 20 to 30 seconds, if it was very aggressive, hopefully they take like a double amount of time for recovery. So hey, it took you 20 seconds. Let's rest at least 40 seconds or more before we go again. Right? If it's equal 1-to-1, they'll probably just match or stay close to their time. But if they take a longer recovery, opportunity to increase. Okay. And then on the weight floor, it is just one long block of work and rest of the 4 movements from prior. So no primer block. You're just going to see split squat, deadlift, single arm high row, floor chest press. And then for the finisher, it is a coach's choice for the final 45 seconds. So be aware of that. Hopefully you don't have that surprise because you're prepping beforehand. And that's going to be Saturday, November 15th. And this will repeat Sunday, the 30th. Coach you down.